In this demonstration video, I'm going to show you how to join two pieces of clay. Before I do that, I want to show you two different mugs that have one that has good use of joining pieces of clay and one that doesn't. So here's this one right here. This is the one that is a good example of joined pieces of clay. If you look at all these little leaves, there are not any cracks that split the leaf from the mug itself. Like, there isn't a crack where it could pop off potentially. Okay, that means these pieces of clay were joined fairly well. Now let me show you one that wasn't very good that I made. Let me find a good spot. So if you look at this one right here, this little tiki head, this yellow piece right here, there's a big crack in between this white piece of clay and the yellow piece of clay. That means that this was not joined very well. Okay, you can kind of see it also in the glaze where the cracks are. That means that this piece of clay was not joined very well, and there's a potential in the future that this will pop right off. It's very important that you join things correctly, or you'll get these cracks like this. Okay, and I'll explain in a little bit what that means. Okay, to join two pieces of clay, first you need two wet pieces of clay. Two wet pieces of clay. You'll need a little cup of slip. This is my slip. Slip is the liquid form of clay. It's basically clay that's mixed with a lot of water. Okay, this one's actually kind of too wet, but it'll work. Okay, you'll need a fork, a needle tool potentially, and then you might need a modeling tool maybe. Okay, I'm just gonna wash my fingers off because they're kind of dirty. So what you do first to join your two pieces of clay is figure out what side is going to be the front. So I think that this is going to be on the back side. I like this, well, I like this side better for the front of my little sculpture. Maybe I'll make this into a leaf or a feather, I'm not sure. But I think I'm going to do on the back side. So you're going to take your fork and you're going to make tons of grooves with your fork. And you can go two directions, so it's kind of like a little checkerboard. You just want to scratch that up. Okay, this is called scoring. Okay, then you're also going to find out where this piece of clay is going to be attached. So I want it to be in the center of the square, like that. Wherever the clay touches this square is where you're going to score again. So that was pretty much in the center of my square, so I'm going to take my fork and just score the entire center. You want to make sure your grooves are deep. You might scrape up some clay like I'm doing, but that's totally fine. Okay, if you don't like using the fork, you could just use your needle tool and do it with a needle tool. Now I think that's scored pretty well. Okay, that looks good. After you've scored both pieces have scores, you're going to take your slip, the liquid clay, and you're going to put slip in those grooves. You might fill in some of the grooves where you won't see it anymore, but that's okay. And you're going to put it on both pieces in those scored areas. Okay. After you have slipped Okay, so this is scoring, this is slipping. You're going to press those two pieces together. Okay, and don't just plop it on there like this, because that'll definitely pop off later. You're going to put it on there and you're going to press down. Some of the slip might ooze out like that, and that's okay. If you wiggle it around and it moves, that means that you have not pressed down enough. Okay, after you have squeezed out the slip or you press down hard enough, what you can do is take your finger, and my fingers are still dirty, and you can smooth out some of those grooves if you have extra grooves like me. Maybe take some of that slip off if you have a lot of extra slip. Now this is the point where you could use a modeling tool to kind of fix the seam if there's a lot of gaps or it just doesn't look very pretty. So I'm going to use this rounded edge of my modeling tool to kind of smooth out the edge. When you are joining two pieces of clay, it is very important that they have the same amount of wetness. So if they're both really malleable, then they're probably good. But if one is firmer than the other, you probably need to get that firmer piece wet, and that might take a day for it to absorb some water. Okay, and if that happens, why don't you come see me and then we can figure out what to do. So this is how you slip and score, or how you join two pieces of clay. If you do this correctly, you'll have no problems with things falling off. If things fall off after they've been in the kiln, there are things that we can do to fix them, but if you slip and score correctly, nothing should fall off. Okay, and that's that.